All right, we're just going to walk across the back of the line, just hit up a few touch points and stuff that should be maintained back here. It's mostly just filters, right? So you got a blower here. There's like these pre-wraps that we put on the filters. These pre-wraps should be replaced probably at least weekly. If you find that they're getting dirtier faster, you might need to change them more often. It's kind of, I say start weekly and see where you land on that. Once a month, you should take this filter off. Loosen this wing nut. This filter will slide off. Take them outside, blow them out. Put them back on, put a new pre-filter wrap on them. They last significantly longer if you keep the pre-wraps clean. So you have one here. And then we have various other ones of the same thing I'll point out down the line. Another thing you should be checking is you have these AC filters on the back of each cabinet. You just push it, slides out. It's a wire mesh. Blow it out, vacuum it out, rinse it out. Keep them clean. If you do not clean this and it gets covered where you can't really see through it, it'll burn up the AC unit. Clean it out, slide it back in. There's another filter in here. Big furnace filter, this is for the blower that dries the glass, right? Take it out, slide a new one in. Most places are changing these every 3 to 5 days. Right back here, there's another one of those filters. And by the way, those filters that are hanging up like that are for the air knife that floats the glass on the back bed, so it's not dragging. So you have another one here. You have another AC filter here. It does have an airflow direction mesh, so it can't blow through. You have another filter here. Another filter there. We're going to pause on filters for a second. We'll talk about a few other things. There's various grease points on this line. There's some have central grease, some do not. Like on the bearings down here, you can just get through there. Just get through the gate. On the bearings, we got some grease fittings. Typically, most all the grease fittings, one pump a month. You don't need to go crazy with them. And then one other ones to point out, so like the ones on the bearings, pump a month. There are some wheels up here, these big silver V wheels. They have a grease fitting on them. You do not need to grease them. This bed's going to move probably maybe 5 times a year. So you certainly don't need to grease those all the time. You just make a mess. Also, very down the line, all our sensors run into typically a J box mounted on the back of the machine. There's one on the front of the SAM head. We don't run all our sensors directly into the cabinet. We run the sensors to a J box and then a multi-conductor back to the cabinet. We got another filter here. We also have gearboxes on the conveyors down there. So those gray gearboxes that have oil in them, maybe change it maybe once a year. It's a 90 weight oil. Once a year would be more than enough. They're not getting like too hot. They're just for the sheer speed they're running. We have another AC filter here on the back of the SAM. Same thing. Another filter here. Then we have blue gearboxes like those. Those are a sealed gearbox. There's no oil in them. They're like a greased gearbox. There's no maintenance to do to them. We have another filter, so somebody forgot the pre-filter on that one. You can see that one's nice and white. That one's new. Then you got this one's nice and dirty. So that should be changed. We have another screen filter for your AC unit. Another filter here with pre-filter wrap on it. And then we have two up here. Those ones, you don't have to change the pre-filter wrap nearly as often. They're a lot higher off the ground. They stay cleaner longer. Those maybe every 2 weeks, typically. You have another filter here. Another side note that people typically mention, every once in a while you'll see some water dripping out of these. That's normal. It's condensation. It's an air conditioning unit. And that is the end for the filters. The rest of this doesn't have any filters down the line. Also, on the back of the line, you have these FRLs. These are to catch water, like condensation. You can just push this little orange button here to drain them. Maybe, get a bowl or something. You could also just shut the air off. Wait for the pressure to drop off. And then, once the pressure's dropped off, pull that down, turn that, it pops off. You can empty it. Put it back, turn, it'll click. Turn your air back on. There is a lockout here too. You can put a padlock through there for lockout tagout. There is one more filter. So you got vacuum pump here. There's a vacuum pump on this machine. There's also one on the SAM. There is a filter on the vacuum pump. Take this cap off. See if I can get it to fall out. There's an O-ring that seats in that groove. I see a lot of people to take this off. They lose the O-ring and they can't figure out why there's no vacuum. Make sure the O-ring's there. Just set it back down in there. But there is a filter in here. I've never seen one of these filters get really dirty yet. The filter lasts almost forever. You have a spare. The spare filter, for whatever reason, comes with this entire can. You don't have to unscrew the can and swap it out. Just take the filter out of that one, put it in this one if you decide to change it. Make sure your O-ring is there, and then it's going to fall out on you a bunch of times. And then latch it on both sides. Latch. You could maybe check that filter once a year. Like you said, I've never really seen them get dirty.